Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first ever edition of Simon Says Let's Wrestle. My name is Simon, and I have my brother Sam on the line. How you doing, Sam?
Doing pretty good. How you, bro?
I'm doing pretty well. Just hanging out. Was trying to watch some NXT tonight, and pretty much I felt like I watched an old pay-per-view tonight. I don't know how you felt about that.
Yeah. I guess they're trying to get everything built up for their next takeover, but it was interesting to say the least.
Um, kind of off the top of it, we'll just talk about NXT real quick since, really the only match they're going to go is the Mount Real match tonight, and we'll probably catch it after we get done with the podcast. But what if you had to name one thing? What was your favorite thing about NXT this year?
From this year, uh, well, I really like Lars Sullivan. Believe it or not, I just think he's a really good character. I like that they're pushing a bigger man. I know that's kind of what they like to do, but there's just something about him. He reminds me kind of maybe like an uglier version of Kane, if you can see
Oh,
that.
okay. I could see that.
Yeah,
Yeah, back in the day, he was. Kane was bald and big, and yeah,
yeah.
I can definitely see that. So what do you see him doing? First off, you think he's going to SmackDown or Raw?
I've heard some rumors and about things he might have said when he was younger, having to do with Stephanie. I mean, I really had no idea before. Actually, it was you telling me about it that any of that had went down. But they'll probably. I know the McMahons are really involved in both shows, so I don't know if that would affect it. But I really think you got Brock on Raw, who's this huge heel type, even though the fans like him. So I think somebody like a Daniel Bryan, even though he's heel now, he and AJ, they need a bigger heel that's all time heel, if you know what I mean, over on SmackDown. So that's
Right.
kind of going.
We'll get into it later, but there's been speculation. I don't know if you heard about it, but there's kind of maybe a rumor going on like Triple H, his champion's going to be Seth, and Vince's is going to be AJ, and there's talk about AJ going to Raw. Do you see AJ going to Raw before Mania, or what do you see about that?
Well, AJ just last night even won the five way so that he could, challenge Bryan for the title. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's kind of run his course in SmackDown for now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he loses to Bryan, and then somehow by WrestleMania, or maybe when they do the draft after, I do think he goes over to Raw.
But you're still thinking after Mania though,
Yeah, because I mean, I don't know when else they would make it happen because he's fighting that Royal Rumble, so I don't
right?
know when they would have time to move him
Okay.
over until afterward
Well, we'll
WrestleMania.
get into more of that later because I have some opinions about that. But first off, well, I guess we're going to kind of mention Mean Gene a little bit. Definitely Mean Gene was in my time, but I think he was definitely like in our dad's time a little bit more prevalent. I mainly get him from like interviewing Hulk and Macho Man, on Facebook.
Right.
They had all the different stuff. So he definitely was an icon in the industry. Everyone respect him. I was on Twitter today, and everyone wrestler was giving respects to him. So I guess he definitely was a legend in the industry.
Yeah, actually, I'm 32, and you're what, 27?
Yeah, I'm 27.
I'm a little bit older than you, so I do remember way back on uh, some of the nitros and even earlier into like the Saturday night shows for WCW. I remember watching him interview people, so I remember him fairly well. He was a little bit, or I was a little bit younger, but I remember Hulk Hogan. I'm not good at impressions, of course, but
Right.
well, Mean Gene, and then Sting would say, well, like they all asked him, well, but they just said it in their own way.
Right. Oh yeah, that's terrible, man. It's man,
Yeah,
2019's going off a bang with wrestlers. So many were taken last year, and now Mean Gene was a big one. So
yeah.
kind of getting on, I kind of one of the first things I want to ask you, and I think it's the most important question, is it still real to you? Damn it.
Yeah. It's it's real to me as let me try to think of how to word this. I believe it is very real in the sense that we couldn't do it. Professional athletes have to do it. Uh, and real professional athletes like take a Ronda Rousey or Brock Lesnar, that's why they excel. It is so real in the sense of You're not going to go in there and just fake it like a movie. Having said that, we all know the truth, but I like to suspend my belief just like everybody else. So I can, I mean, if I go watch a movie, take Rocky for instance. I love the Rocky movies just because I know there's acting involved. I still get just as emotional. So if something elicits an actual emotion, that to me is real. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I do believe in my heart that when I watch it, I view it as a real happening. So sorry if that was too analytical, but that's
No,
how I feel
I
about
mean, you
wrestling.
got to think about though how many like pro like NFL players and they're trying to step into the ring and has not been successful. I mean, they might can do a slam, but they might not have the promo. They might, like someone fortunate like Apollo Cruz. I mean,
Yeah,
he's super talented, but I mean, you haven't heard him talk for a reason.
right.
And the only reason and the last thing, the only thing he had was I think Daniel Bryan called like Apollo Creed or something along those
Hmm.
lines. And so, yeah, it's definitely real. I mean, okay, so I thought we kind of no. First off, so we all know there's a million podcasts out there. Now we get it, but we basically been fans our whole lives. And you know what? And then one thing I think that's not out there is we're actually brothers. We got that in the beginning. So and we're not the Edge and Christian type of brother. We're for real brothers. So we're better
Right.
in that way. And so I think we would be the type of buddies you'd hang out with, talk wrestling with. So I think this would be a real, because, there's Stone Cold, there's Chris Jericho. I mean,
Well,
how many? Yeah.
let me say this. There have been times in our lives. I mean, you live in St. Louis. I live in Fort Smith in Arkansas,
Hmm.
or you're around St. Louis.
Yeah.
How many times have we went a month or two? Probably haven't even said anything, and randomly during a pay per view or even a Raw, just been like, "Hey, did you just see that?" And a lot of the times we're watching the same thing. So one thing about it being brothers with wrestling, wrestling has brought us back into conversing. And I mean, it might not last but for a week, but we usually talk a little bit more. And
Right.
then wrestling, it might be the thing that brings us back to talking again. I know we've went to an NXT show together. Uh, so it's just something in our family, which this probably isn't the show for bringing up how we were raised, but we're not very emotional, do everything together. But wrestling is one of the few things that we both really enjoy and can kind of bring us together. So it's kind of a dude relationship with some real actual family values with it is how I
Right.
view it.
Okay, so going off that, I guess we'll just kind of start. Well, first off, kind of the format of the show. We're still getting out the kinks. This is kind of our first run out. I just trying to put it out there is we're going to be going over Raw, and then we're just going to have two shows a week, and we're going to go over Raw, SmackDown, and if NXT wasn't a recap show, we're going over NXT. And then after we review it, we're going to maybe watch an older match or just speculate or something along those lines. We're looking about getting an hour, 45 minutes to an hour every show. So I kind of want to start out with maybe wrestling history or maybe, with us. I would probably say I'd go first. I'd say that my first ever memory of wrestling was sitting down at the house eating pancakes, watching. I do believe it was on Saturday mornings, and I don't know the name of the show, but basically ever since I could remember, I've been watching wrestling, and pretty much one of my first memories of just being on Earth is of wrestling, and I just wondering what your first memory of wrestling is.
Well, you bring up that Saturday show. There was a WCW Saturday morning
That
show.
might be it. I don't remember. I just remember mom made pancakes, and I'd sit on the floor in front of the table eating pancakes and
Mhm.
watching wrestling Saturday morning.
Well, yeah, there was Saturday. I'm trying to find. I think it was just called WCW Saturday Morning Wrestling, and then there was WCW Saturday Night, which was kind of the at the time before Nitro started. That was really my time of the WCW Saturday Night. Now I do remember that was something else I was looking up because I want to get this out there. I'm not the type that does a lot of research before these shows. I just want it to be more of an organic type of conversation like we're doing. I'll go ahead and say now Simon's going to be the research guy. I'm going to be the guy that keeps up with it, has some memories, and adds a little bit to it. But having said that, I was thinking it was Starcade '89 because back then we had that huge satellite
Yeah, I
dish,
remember. Yeah, yeah.
and Dad would order. We didn't grow up very wealthy, but Dad every now and then would order a pay per view, and I would have been 3.5 ish when Starcade '89 happened. I know Sting was in it. I'm
Hmm.
looking up the actual matches right now.
Was it Crow
Yeah,
or Surf Sting?
no, this was back in '89. This
So he
was like
was like the
this was
colorful Sting.
yes. So this was back in '89, and he beat Ric Flair. So I
Oh,
do,
okay.
and that's my first memory. As far as the consistently, I know we watched Saturday morning, Saturday night, and then Sunday afternoon into the evening. There was another wrestling WCW show, and just we might as well point this out. I didn't even really start getting into WWE probably till '97, '98. All we
Okay.
grew up on was that WCW, and you might remember that too. I don't know.
Was it just because we didn't like? Why was that? I mean, was it
That's
just?
just what Dad watched. I mean,
Oh,
he
okay. So Dad was a
yeah, well,
WCW guy before WWE.
yeah. At least during that time frame, I've heard that WWE didn't show in some areas at that time. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but
Got you.
we watched it all weekend, and then we'd wait till the next week and we'd start it all over again.
But you gotta remember, WCW was more of a Southern Georgia territory type of thing, and WWE was more New York. So that
Yeah,
would make sense because we were in South Arkansas at the time. So it more likely we'd pick up WCW. Okay,
right.
so that's kind of our history. I thought it'd be kind of fun if we both guessed each other's maybe favorite wrestler. And so I would, and I think and we'll give each other a couple of things. I think I got you down. I think your couple of favorite wrestlers is Jericho and Sting,
Yeah,
and I think
those are
that
good. Mm-hmm.
okay. So, and I don't think I ever told you before, but I'm gonna give you a
Well,
couple of things. So I'm
well,
gonna see.
I do think currently your favorite wrestler is Kevin Owens, or he's one of them. Am I right on that? Or
Yeah, KO is probably my favorite right now.
okay, well, let's put. So, what were you going to say as far as
I said
old?
I'm just interested if you can even guess, because I mean, like I said, we talk about wrestling sometimes, but we've never really sat down and had a full conversation. So I'm interested, since you are my brother, if you can get close, because I
Okay.
really don't I don't really have like I don't want to say a favorite. There's just so many I really enjoy, but there's about two or three are it. So I want to see if you can guess.
Okay. Well, you're going to give me a
Uh,
hint, or am I just
let
supposed to guess?
me see here. Um. It's so hard. I you probably wouldn't know this, but he was the first wrestling shirt I've ever bought.
Uh,
I gave you no guess. And okay, it's not an Attitude Era guy, it's a later guy. I'll give it's not like a Stone Cold or a Shawn Michaels or anything. And let's say he kind of quit WWE in not the greatest way.
CM Punk.
Punk's probably my guy. If I had to
Yeah.
guess, I don't know about you, but I seem like we fell off. Like, like during high school, I guess I just got super interested in girls and stuff. I just fell out of it, and then for
Yeah.
some reason I just picked it back up. And CM Punk was the guy at the time, so it's like CM Punk like got me back into wrestling. When now it's this
Well,
crazy
when
how
the
much of
Attitude Era ended, I kind of quit paying attention.
uh
So I had a few years there. Of course, life got busy, and I went to college and that sort of thing. So when I started watching again, it was back to I think Stone Cold had already retired. About the time I started watching, Punk was there, Edge was there. Well, it was around the time of the WrestleManias with Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, or maybe
right.
a little bit before then. That's about the time I picked it back up.
Right. Like with like when Shawn and Taker like they fought like the evil, like Shawn was wearing the white, Taker was wearing the black. You
Yeah,
tell me like that there.
one and two, and then the next two were Triple H and Undertaker.
Right. I would also say probably another one. I don't know. For some reason, of course, I mean, if I say Eddie Guerrero, I mean that's a given. He's probably one of everybody's favorite wrestlers. I remember
Right.
him against Brock at, I do believe it's Mania. I mean, I don't know. I've always liked
So
RVD
here,
was one of mine too.
well, here can be one of our first disagreements. Eddie was okay, but he never did anything for me.
Why
Like
do you think he's
seriously,
only okay?
he just what did he do that was supposedly so great?
Maybe I was just a young
Well,
fan.
no, it's not just you; it's everybody. Like
Uh,
Jericho, because Jericho and Eddie kind of started running the same rounds in WCW. The
uh,
reason I
uh,
like Jericho so much is because number one, he can wrestle really well, but he's
uh.
got such great charisma. And well, Eddie might have had charisma, but Jericho's just got that showmanship. Maybe it was just not my taste with Eddie, but
No, I agree. Jericho's. I mean, this is for another podcast. But I mean, Jericho's top five. I'd probably right now. I mean, with just all Jericho's doing in New Japan and with all
mhm.
Elite coming up. I mean, Jericho's just my guy right now. I mean, can do anything wrong. But that's for another podcast. Um,
Yeah.
so what we're going to do is, so we're at tonight. Like we said, since NXT's kind of a recap show, we're going to be going over SmackDown, and we have a rating system that we're going to do, and hopefully it's not as confusing as like the War Games rules they are in NXT. So
But,
I'm gonna let Sam explain those because I'm still trying to grasp those rules.
okay, so basically, we've got the people out there. Is it Meltzer and there's some others that like to do matches and give them stars? Well, sometimes I think it's a little bit too. I mean, 5 stars isn't enough. What does that truly entail? So I like to have more of a variance, I guess you would call it, of points. So the way I do this, using this 3 categories that we like to rate each attribute on star power of a match, the showmanship of a match, and the actual wrestling in a match. And I know some old school people are going to talk about, yeah, but what about the storytelling during the match? Well, that's kind of included in the showmanship. And as we break some matches down in the future, we can get more into that. But basically, each one of these 3 criteria, star power, showmanship, and wrestling, you rate on a scale of 1 to 10. Now, so that would mean a perfect match, and I'll go ahead and say what I believe is one of the perfect matches is the Shawn Michaels Undertaker matches. I think I liked the first one the best, but they were both right up there. So, for an example, the Shawn Michaels Undertaker matches at the WrestleManias to me were perfect 30s. So, what you want to accomplish here is, as long as the 3 of these combined can get you to a 21, aka a blackjack or better, they were a match that was worthy of being on the card, or at least, even if it's trying to get a storyline, if it doesn't reach that 21, then the performer should have done better, or the angle might have just thrown them off. So, for instance, if your star power's an 8 and your showmanship's a 7, well, that gets you to 15. Well, the wrestling better darn well be at least a 6, or we really didn't care to see that match. So it's really easy. It's just basically like blackjack. Any match that gets 21 or better is a good match. And of course, once you get over 25, you're talking some of the best matches in history. And it's really simple. The more we do it, the more people can catch on. But that's just kind of our system to use. And like I said, I've used it in life in other arenas, but I'm not going to go into detail because these days you can get in trouble for things you say. So I'm not going to say.
Okay, so that was still a little long, but we're gonna roll with it. Alrighty, so the first thing we're gonna do, so first off, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't turn on SmackDown until about 7:30. Did you catch the first 30 minutes of SmackDown?
Uh, yeah, I did, and you probably didn't miss anything by waiting to start it because it just started with uh, the New Day coming out. Not, I'm be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of them. They bore me. I'm kind of tired of that shtick. I understand that for kids, they've got to WWE has to keep doing something that maybe the kids can get along with. However, the New Day themselves sometimes goes a little out there for what you would want a child to see and hear.
So what do
Yeah,
you think they should do then? What if in a perfect
what,
world, if you were booking it, what would you have them do?
who New Day?
Yeah, yeah. Would you?
I would have had them turn on each other by now. But what I'm
Okay.
getting at is WWE needs to decide what they're going to be. Are we going to be
Okay.
a kids show, or are we going to? I'm not necessarily talking about Attitude Era, but are we going to be an adult show that we can all enjoy?
So is it so? Are they going to cater to smarks like us who really dig into it, make podcasts for fun, or are they going to go for kids? Is that kind of what you're trying? They should decide on.
Well, money's going to decide it.
Uh-huh.
But what they did back in the 80s into the 90s, everything was basically for the kids and just adults. Like, hey, let's just have, and I use the term good match lightly, but two people would go out and have a match. Yay, they were entertained. Well, then they delved into these amazing storylines and matches and NWO, DX, the Attitude Era, and then they tried to come back out of it. Well, now that we've been spoiled to that, all of us our age is going to try or is going to yearn for that. So I feel like at least don't try to. I don't want jokes slid in. I want it to either be what it's going to be or be for the kids, and then that way we can watch it and know what it's supposed to be.
Got you. Okay. So who do you think? Who do you think would be a star? So I know I like video games and stuff. So like I really like Xavier Woods. I think a lot of people would pick Biggie, but I think Xavier's probably the most charismatic one of the group, and I'd love to see him get a little singles running with a little bit of push.
Well, what I actually think is going to happen is at some point, or maybe it's more hope than think. I'm hoping they do break up somehow where Big E either turns or he gets a singles run. And
Uh-huh.
then naturally the first feud would be Kofi and Xavier. And Kofi's been around, which of course they've all been around a while now, but Xavier's first feud, he'll defeat Kofi somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And then he can move on. Uh, but I do think when they do break up, it's going to be so that Big E can chase titles, or at least the bigger titles, and then Kofi and Xavier go back to maybe U.S. title or something,
Right.
or maybe they'll probably start it where we can get the tag team titles on their own and then turn on each other, similar
Right.
to Shield.
Okay. Okay. So you said that there wasn't much. I'm seeing that.
Well,
What else
yeah,
happened?
right after that, Jeff Hardy and Samoa Joe, of course, fought for the right to be in the Fatal Five Way that happened later, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just, and maybe I'm just getting impatient, or because the show's not been good. I mean, we haven't even touched on how the McMahon showed up a few weeks back, but so we're back to Samoa Joe, which he is a great character, but he and Randy Orton pick on all the other people by trying to be really aggressive or sleek or do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, it's the same story told every time, but it gets a little redundant.
Mm-hmm.
Another,
Mm-hmm.
they just pick on people, and then those people try to break, and then ultimately the heel comes out on top because Joe did end up beating Hardy.
Right.
Uh, and so it started, with New Day coming out, which New Day does get pop. That's probably just me on a personal level not liking them. That's why Vince is obviously going to do what he feels gets the most reaction, because reaction means money. So they got a pop, and then they had an intense match between two people. I love Samoa Joe, and I like Jeff Hardy. I was never a huge Hardy guy like some people, and we can touch on that if you want or not. But the Hardys just never did it for me. Now, as a tag team, when they used to fight with Edge and Christian and Team 3D and all that, I loved that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm kind of tired of the standard Joe picks on a smaller guy or something.
Oh, okay. I mean, it seems like they had nothing really to do with for Orton and Joe, because Joe got beat pretty much by Styles, so that threw him out of the top picture. So they're basically just
Yeah.
upper mid
Yeah,
card
because
guys, and yeah,
right before this, Randy was picking on Jeff and
yeah.
sticking screwdrivers through his ears, and now Randy's doing it to Rey Mysterio.
So basically, the top mid card faces, the basically mid card heels, or not mid card, but upper mid card, they're just feuding because they got nothing else, because they really can't go up, because that's the pure title, heavyweight title, and then below it's just no one cares about.
Right.
Yeah, okay. So, okay, I mean, So I don't say we should do the rating because I can't give my 2 cents. But yeah, so it sounds like it was just another not boring TV match, but just another just TV match.
It seems
Okay.
like filler time because, and we'll touch on this later. It, I only like two matches in one night. If the guy who wins the first one to get to the second one wins that one, and we'll discuss in a minute. Joe didn't win. Not to let people who are listening to this, if they're listening to us already, you can guarantee they already know the results of SmackDown.
Right. Okay, so next thing we're going to talk about the Rusev Rusev coming out and talking about he winning the United States Championship. Um, to me, kind of like your complaint about Joe and Hardy. I mean, he felt super robotic. It's kind of like, I feel like the boat has sailed on Rusev Day. I'm still super into it, but I feel like they gave the U.S. title to Rusev just to shut fans up because basically he was so over. If he beat AJ Styles for a title, I think a couple months ago, I mean, he shouldn't have won, but if he did win, then everyone would be real excited. But I just feel like they're finally just giving you this title to shut people up. And
This this is about the second or third time they've done that.
right. I mean, he does. I mean, I don't. The problem with so we're going down this Rusev thing. I don't. I mean, people say Rusev's underused. I mean, I agree, but I mean, are you really going to put him over Styles, Bryan? I mean, for the championship. I mean, unless he chose back to when he faced John Cena back at WrestleMania. But I mean, his character's too damaged, I think, right now to even get there. So what do you do with Rusev? I mean,
Well, I
there's
mean, the only way this works is if they let him keep the title for longer than a couple of months, and then
uh
he actually beats some good people. Like, I'll go back to maybe that Lars Sullivan. Maybe
uh
he comes in and he starts gunning for it, and eventually, if you're going to turn him into something, he does have to get over. But you might not want to squash him right out the gate, but maybe he could challenge Rusev, and then he gets caught cheating. But Rusev is big enough and athletic enough. He could hang with Brock. I'd love to see Rusev and Brock eventually somehow. I don't know if that would ever
So
happen.
you mean like a big mean heel Rusev against Brock?
Yeah. Which Brock though, Rusev right now could fight Brock as a face, and people would love it.
Uh-huh.
Because Brock, as much as people watch him, but I think everybody's getting tired of him even. But that's again more as we talk about these matches. It's going to show or these segments and all. I mean, of course, a part of the conversation is we're going to have rabbit trails. But I think a lot of what we're saying, surely people who are out there are thinking it too.
Right. So
So,
okay, so what do you think about this promo? I felt it was very like he kind of stuttered a little bit. It seemed very robotic. It looks like a writer had a piece of paper and said, "Go say this," and maybe add Rusev Day to it. I mean, what do you think about the promo?
yeah, it just all felt, really fake and worked, which I mean, of course, we know he knew he was going to have to. Shinsuke was going to come out at some point and do that, but
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just I'm tired of Shinsuke. If you want to say that too, I mean, to be honest with you, you've probably got me at a good time because uh, for anybody who might ever happen to hear this, or maybe if we listen to it in a few years, I've just come off about a month where I really haven't watched a whole lot of wrestling because I've been busy with work. And to be quite frank, after Roman, had to relinquish because of his leukemia, I was one of the guys that really liked him. So I've just kind of lost a little bit of interest, but I've started watching again, especially now that we were talking again. Like I said, wrestling brought us together. Well, this time you brought me back to wrestling, so it's funny how that works. But it's the same stuff a month later, and even though the McMahon supposedly were going to come back and change everything, so I'm just
So you're
waiting to
not
see.
tired of Shinsuke himself. You're just tired of the way he's booked.
I'm tired of a lot of the storylines.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I really like Shinsuke. I think how he's booked in NXT was awesome. He didn't, I thought he was a really good NXT
Well, that's
champion.
a whole nother discussion too. I love tons of people that come from NXT and then they just get bungled when they get to the main roster.
Right. I
So,
mean, so the whole segment, the thing is, like, I think we're both hitting on. It's just the angle. I mean, Rusev is amazing. Shinsuke's awesome. It's just the situation they're put in. I mean, they can't really
yeah,
control it.
but I mean, they've they've got to do something. So I guess that's what they're going to do. I mean,
Right. They got. Okay, so the next one is okay. So probably my least favorite segment of the night was the Naomi and Sunny Deville thing. I think it was dumb. Real dumb. I mean, it's kind of a classic angle. I mean, but I mean, the women deserve more, man. It's just crazy. I mean, the women get one basically anytime a championship match and everything, and everybody else doesn't matter. I mean, what do you think? What do you think's
Well,
going on here?
again, first off, this goes back into if they want us to take them serious, like seriously. So it's supposed to be Naomi versus Mandy Rose, and all of
Uh,
a sudden they just get to decide, nope, it's going to be Sonya.
uh,
And so I think, and more, it's filler. I think what they've run into, they have too many talented people and not enough time. And that by no means I think they should make a longer show. But I do think they're either going to have to introduce some new titles, which I know apparently the women's tag team titles is a possibility.
uh,
But until that comes, especially with the women, it's like they hire all these women and we're doing this women's revolution, which I am for, don't get me wrong. But then they don't think about, oh, but if we have 8 women on a 2 hour show where we've also got 25 men, what are we going to do with those women in the one slot we give them tonight? Because other than
right.
Becky Lynch, I mean, right now, Becky, Asuka, and Charlotte are the top women on there. And they're turning that into a 3-way deal. I think it's more because they don't know what to do with them, other than that's what people really want to see, to be honest. Why can't if they're why can't they let Sonya or Mandy start trying to fight one of the top tier women? Naomi's okay, but she's not anything special. She to me is mid tier. So
Right.
I really don't know what they're doing here. Again, we'll use this word again. The angle just made the whole thing seem stupid to me.
Right, because I mean, I bet they're fantastic wrestlers. I mean, I don't get why can't they just, I don't know. Like, I mean, something just have to happen because I do not care. I mean,
Yeah.
I do not care about it. I mean, so we're first going to go over our ratings with this. I mean, my star power is a 4, my showmanship's a 5, and my wrestling's a 4. What do you have for your ratings?
Well, my star power was a 6 because I do give Naomi 6. I gave uh, Sonya a 5. But when you add those together and average them, it's 5.5. So that I do round up. Maybe I'm too nice. So they got a 6 for star power. Showmanship, I mean, they really tried, but I mean, at best, that was a 5. And the only reason I did that is because precluding it, they tried to include, is it Jay she's married to or
Yeah,
Jim?
Jay. I think it's Jimmy. They're twins. I don't know.
Well, she's married to one of them, so they're trying to include him in the angle, which kind of brings it up. So the whole, and then Mandy, of course, they're going back to the days of taking off her shirt to get a little raise out of people, but it was just so they tried. So for that, I'm going to give them a 5 for the showmanship. But
Okay.
then as far as the wrestling, we're going to go a 4. So I
Okay.
mean, so my match total was a 15. So it wasn't
Mine
a
was
21. So what was yours?
mine was 8 and 5. So that is what's that
13.
math? 13. So
13.
so so here's mine. So this is our first discussion. I think you have Naomi too high because what then? Where do you put Bailey on the? Because I mean,
Who?
did Bailey? Because basically Bailey. So you're saying Bailey's like, Naomi's 6, so Bailey's got a 7 or 8. I don't think Bailey has that much star power anymore. I mean, like,
Well, to me, Bailey and Naomi are both 6s.
so you think both 6s? So who's the next tier after Naomi for you then?
Well, I mean, you got to, like right now, in the heat of the moment, I think Becky Lynch is probably the highest.
Right.
She might be the 9, but even, I mean, she, Asuka, and of course Flair
Uh huh.
are all either 8 or 9. And honestly, it just depends on in the moment how they've
Okay.
been doing for a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Sasha Banks is about, I'd say she's a 7. Asuka and Flair are an 8. And right now, uh, what's her face? We were just talking about
Naomi.
Becky.
Oh,
Becky.
Becky.
She's probably the only 9. The women, of course, Ronda on the other side. But for what we're talking about, because I think I think the only way you can be a 10 is honestly if you're already a legend like a Cena or a Taker or something like that.
Right,
But
right, right, right.
um,
Yeah, I think honestly, I think because just the angle, because I like Naomi before she was a women's champion. I love her entrance; it's awesome. But I
oh
think
yeah,
just
that was part of the showmanship. Her entrance alone got him a little bit.
yeah, I mean that alone. I mean, I think that's one of the best entrances in the game right now.
And
I love.
let me say this again too, because this is our first one, and you can always go out and edit what you want. One thing, which I know I did go into a kind of a long deal
Uh,
about explaining our grading system, but
uh,
that's why. Because I mean, if you really suck at the wrestling part, it's all about what's going to get eyes on the match. So if you really suck at the wrestling and you're only a 4, well,
uh,
you better average a 9 on the other two to make up for it. So it gives
right.
you plenty of opportunity to still put on a high quality event, even if one's lacking.
Right, because this isn't the independent scene. This isn't New Japan
Yeah,
or Ring of Honor. I mean, this is more about, the spectacle than the wrestling. Because if you want wrestling,
yeah,
you'd watch NXT and all that. I mean, this is about the
yeah.
show.
Because NXT shows their wrestling's probably always going to be higher, but their star power is going to be lower because not a lot of people know who a lot of them are.
Right, right, right. Okay, so on the next one, we're going to go with, we're going to talk about with Cena and Becky and Almas and Vega. I think first thing I think is, wow. I mean, this is like beating the same drum, but it's like they're taking Becky super serious. I mean, putting her with John Cena and actually running them down is a huge deal for Becky. I mean, she has to be ecstatic getting know she gets to basically ab lib with Cena for the
Yeah.
night.
Uh-huh. Well,
Uh,
yeah, I really think, and you and I actually had talked a little bit about it. We thought she would turn on him somehow and maybe cost him the match, or at least I think I thought that. I
mm,
think you were a little bit closer that she would get the win and something fishy happened, which is kind of how it happened. She, threw Cena out to get the win, and then, they did their little, if you ever want to come back to my house or whatever she told him. So
mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a fairly highly rated match. As far as mine goes, I gave it a star power was an 8, and I'll just say John's a 10. Becky, like I said, is a 9. I've got I'll go ahead and say Zelina Vega is only about a 5. I think we would agree on those three.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have Almas as a 7. You might think he's a little lower. I
I
think he's
agree. Almas. I think Almas. I think Almas. I'm glad he got this spot because I mean, off
because
top of
he's
the
had some matches with AJ recently, and
right.
I mean he was real big when he came in to the out of the Mexican league or whatever.
Yeah, I
So.
mean, I just, I mean, but honestly, just quick sidebar. I mean, if it wasn't for Almas and Vega, who else do you think should have been in that spot? I mean, not Ty Dillinger or Shelton Benjamin. I mean, who else really had
No,
enough
for what
star
was going to
power?
happen, they had to have a woman number 1 because I
Right.
still think it was actually more about Becky than Cena.
So you think it's more about Becky
Yeah,
than oh,
they're
okay.
using Cena to elevate her. At least that's how I felt it was going.
No, that makes sense. I didn't think about that. I mean, that's true. I mean, and Almas and Vega have enough star power to for someone to care like us to care
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
Um,
So star power, I averaged it out to an 8. Showmanship, I had it at a. Sorry for anybody listening if this doesn't get edited. I just almost spilled a drink. Uh, so showmanship, I had an 8, and then I had another 8 for the no, star power was an 8, and showmanship was an 8 because you know we don't really rate the segments. It's supposed to just be the matches, but you have to include beforehand what led up to the match. So John coming out there and then Becky coming out with everything. And actually, I could probably raise that a little bit, but I'm leaving it at about an 8. And then the wrestling, I meant the match itself, I only gave a 6. You could disagree on that, but so it got to that 22 level. So again, even though the wrestling wasn't great because of who was involved and what they had going on, it hit that 22 mark, which is a good score.
Right, because I mean, like we kind of talked about before, the rules. I mean, the wrestling wasn't that great, but the start, you got Becky and John, and you got upcomers
Yeah.
of Almas and Vega, and then just the little things Becky did to John that really raised up the level of to get our over
That,
Blackjack.
that's that storytelling part. I include that. That facet's involved in the showmanship.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I think it's
Just in
great.
case anybody that ever listens still doesn't quite understand.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't believe like Becky's just turned into this. Like I've heard, like I heard like she got like they were shooting a movie. She was shooting a movie like with Miz for like the Marine Six, and she got advice from Shawn Michaels about something like how do I get better, and then she just took it and ran with it, which is just crazy, especially in a WWE world with Vince McMahon. Before Becky was
Yeah.
just kind of a afterthought in the women's revolution, and now she's
Yeah.
with Cena.
Yeah. So
Oh,
it was. I mean, it was a good match. As far as like, I enjoyed it.
right. So the last match we're going to talk about is the main event, which had Styles, Mysterio, Orton, Ollie, and Joe. First off, this was an awesome match for especially for TV. This would even be going on pay-per-view. Um,
Yeah.
I think the star of the show was Ali. I think he acts like he belongs. You know, I didn't watch too much 205 Live, but man, he's great. And like, I can't believe he never held the 205 title, and he acts like he belongs with the big boys on SmackDown.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
It's
Um,
just, I think it's
but,
because Neville was there, and then of course Enzo. I guess they were worried about star power, but man, Ali's just killing it.
well, I think what they're doing, uh, I think what they're trying to start doing is people that haven't held belts when they come in, and eventually it'll change again because they're trying to keep the fans guessing because we have all gotten smart to a lot of things.
Uh huh.
So by having somebody come in who never has held a belt and doing so well, it's a pleasant surprise. Whereas if they bring in a Neville who's already been NXT champ, there's so much expectation that then he kind of fizzles out.
Got you. Got you.
That's what
Okay.
I think they're doing.
Uh,
Because I'm trying to think if it, I kind of, now Almas had already been a champ, but when
mhm.
he did come out and just have those great matches out of nowhere, I don't think anybody was expecting it. They're going to give us whatever we're not expecting as much as they can.
Right. Right. Being going back to like we said with Vince coming out, I think they're just kind of going, just throwing stuff against the wall and see what's happening.
Yeah.
And in kind of our, I think we kind of talked about the ratings. I got Star Power. I was going to give it a 10, but it just if you're a 10, it needs to be like remember at Saudi Arabia DX and Kane and Undertaker. Someone go Star Power. You know,
Well, I
9.
mean, if we've got the time, Brett, if you want me to go first, I can,
Yeah,
or
you go
you.
ahead. We got time.
Well,
We yeah.
because the way that I do it, I grade each individual performer and then I average by how many are in it. Now, of course, anything past maybe like 5 or 6 men, that can get confusing. But
Uh
at that point, if there's that many people in it, it's generally because it's like a Royal Rumble or tag teams, and then you can
uh.
just do it based off each tag team. But,
Mhm.
so I've got Styles as a 9, Orton as a 9. Mysterio, to me, he's only an 8. Some people would disagree with that.
Oh, I agree. He's
Jo-
an 8. He's an 8.
Joe's an 8, and then Ali, as good as he is, he's in that same 7 to me as say Almas.
I go 6. I mean, because
Okay.
he was a cruiserweight. So I mean, I didn't really know who he was till this. So yeah, so I agree
Well,
right there.
okay. So basically, when you add that together, that's 18 and 16, which is 34, and then Ali's so 41 divided by 5, you're about an 8 again for star power. So
Mhm.
you got 8 on star power. Just kind of like you said, I'm going to give it an 8 for showmanship
Uh huh.
because once you get past 3 people, sometimes it's a little hard to keep up with everybody.
Mhm.
So, even though there was a lot of good stuff, actually Ali had 2 of the best moves, I thought, with that one Spanish fly.
That was crazy.
Yeah, and then he did another one that I can't think of right offhand, but I remember thinking that was a good move. So anyway, so 8, 8, and then as far as actual wrestling goes, I'm going to give it a 7. So it was
Mhm.
actually my highest rated one of the night at 23.
Okay. Okay.
Even though the
I'm
Santa one was at 22. So
right. I'm gonna go. To me, I have a harder time with it because I feel like because the thing is they got so high because there's so many people. So I feel like these multi-man matches, I don't want to say don't count for star power, but there should be almost an asterisk because if you have that many people, it's going to get a higher score. But I'd go with you. I'd probably go. I'm going to go a 9 on it because I mean, you got Styles. I mean, there was a recent video I watched where they put out of like all the WWE champions ever. He was like number, I think 11 or 12 all time, comparing to like Stone Cold and stuff. So I think he's already a legend. He just needs to retire. You got Orton. Honestly, I think Orton. I mean, you gave Orton a 9. I could see Orton being a 10. Can see him on Cena's level because maybe John has more Hollywood in him. But I mean, Orton is up there. So go showmanship, same thing. I got like a 5 or 6 somewhere around there because it's just kind of hard. The wrestling, I got a 7 for wrestling. It was a fantastic match.
So you're about 21 or 22, so we were close again. But.
Right, it's just that Spanish Fly. If there was a couple more moves, I might give it a little bit more. But just all in, I mean, it was a fantastic TV match.
Let me say this, just so you know, even the star power is exactly what you said. That's what I mean by it. If somebody walks into a room, who's a random person going to recognize? That makes John Cena the 10 and the other 2 9s.
God, that makes sense. So okay.
But you can give them higher in showmanship because within their craft, you might think they did better than I might think, But star power to me is based on any random person. If you say who is Brock Lesnar, they know who he is.
Right.
If you say who's John Cena, who's Undertaker, who's Shawn Michaels. So to be a star, I think it has to be that people know you even outside of wrestling.
Got you. Not just not for smarks like us.
Like even Chris Jericho to me, he's a 9, and some might even only give him 8. I mean,
is it right? Okay, so we have actually got a few minutes left. So we're going to do some fun stuff. I'm going to call it predictions. So what we're going to do is I'm going to name a title, and you're going to tell me who you think is going to be champion at the end of 2019. So So first off, I'm going to go. Let's just go tag team titles both Raw and SmackDown. So first off, who do you think is going to be the tag team champs on Raw?
The tag team champs on Raw.
Raw at the end of 2019.
And this shows that it's live because I'm having to look and see exactly what all tag teams are still on Raw as opposed to.
It doesn't matter. Because they can switch.
That's true. I do think. It's a little bit hard to say who it's going to be at the end of the year, but I'll tell you the team that I think is going to have a very good run in 2019.
Okay, who is that?
I think they're due for a push. Is going to be. There's actually the 2 teams I think of the most are the Revival. I think they're finally going to get a push, and then Luke Gallows and Anderson. I think those 2 teams are finally going to get the pushes they deserve. Whether it be against each other or if they are on separate at some point. Because if Vince and them truly mean they're going to give the fans what they want to see, name 2 tag teams people want to see champs more than those 2.
Right. I think if they don't go to all elite wrestling first, the new promotion, if they don't go first, my 2 people are the Undisputed Era because they're moving up. Yeah, they're moving up. And then I'm going to go Revival too. I mean, I think
All I can say about Undisputed Era is the Revival moved up on Fire. Look what happened to them. And then you can even go back to what's that? The tag team from NXT that kind of reminded us of the Road Warriors, Victor and
Ascension.
Yeah, they to me were a can't miss team, and they got
really
screwed over.
See, that's thing with that. I got NXT later than that, so I didn't understand. Like I knew they were popular, but I didn't know how popular they were.
What I'm saying is, if you keep in mind how many people have been bungled when they come up, I feel like those other 2 are now at a point where they've been there long enough. It will be there. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying if you want to know why, because I like the Undisputed Era as well. But I just don't think even if they move up, they're going to let them have the titles that quickly.
Gotcha. Okay. So what about the let's not even do that. Who do you think deserves like the Intercontinental Championship, United States Championship? Maybe he's going to get a good push. He's going to get there by the end of the year.
Okay.
Who do you think?
Let me say a lot of these titles are affected by who's going to be the WWE and Universal, and a lot of that to me has to do with if Roman's back.
Okay.
When Roman comes back, he's going to be Universal Champion for. I think they're going to give him an over a year reign.
Okay.
So if he's back, then obviously Seth is going to have to fight. Seth and Dean are obvious, and of course this all depends on which show and all that. But the people that are going to be in the runnings for Intercontinental are going to be Seth, Dean, when KO comes back, and I think Sami Zayn may actually get what he's worth when he finally gets back.
Okay. Okay.
So those are my four. And I mean, it sounds like a lot of the same old, but they're still carrying the star power. I will say this. United States is kind of a little bit under that.
Uh-huh.
I think the Mustafa Ali's, the Almas, what's his whole name? Cien Andre Cien.
Yeah, see, I almost, yeah.
I think those two. I could see, Bobby Roode may come back around, and I'm giving you a lot of answers, so I'll make it simple. Here's who I want and think deserves it. I think within the year, instead of saying who it'll be at the end of the year, I think the one who gets the biggest push and deserves it for the Intercontinental Championship would probably be, I want to see Sami Zayn finally reach that level.
Oh.
I do. Not that I think he's that great, but I think he deserves it, and I do know he's big enough that I think it could happen.
Right.
United States, I think Almas is going to run the show on that one somehow throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, all these other people I've named are in the picture, but I think Zayn and Almas are the two for those two titles.
Zayn and Almas. I'm going to go, I guess since we already talked about, I think, man, I really want KO to get a title back because I think the problem with KO is he's so good that I think they don't think he needs a title because he's such a good talker and wrestler and pretty much can get any angle.
Well, that's true, but remember I said this was all if Roman's there. If Roman's not, I think he moves into contention for the Universal or whatever show he's on title.
Right. KO?
So if we go as is and Roman's not there, I think somebody's going to end up beating Bryan. I think quicker rather than later. I don't know. I guess Braun is still in line to get a title push from Brock, maybe.
I feel like that boat's gone past sail. I feel like they just need to put on Drew at this point. Just put on Drew because Brock and Braun. I feel like I think Braun still has a long way to go. Braun, I think just right now in this moment in time, Braun's title chances just need to go away. He needs to maybe just step back, get out of the title picture, destroy some stuff, and maybe come back in a couple months because they
You can tell me this. Out of Braun and Drew, who's heel and who's face right now?
Technically, the problem is with Braun, he was face and they turned him heel, and I think it's kind of in between. Right now, Drew is the true heel right now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Braun as a face would have to have, I don't know who other than Drew could be the heel to go against him. So I think the two of them could be the ones that feud for it, and then maybe KO on the other show.
Right.
Roman's back. I truly believe he's going to get his belt back and hold it for a while.
Got you. And on SmackDown, I'm probably gonna go Ali because he's just not ready for that time. I think they were smart to put him on to display him like that with all the bigger players, but he's gonna get that title. And then I guess
he'll get the WWE title.
No, the United States Championship. Okay. He's gonna get the mid card belt because he showed enough he can compete. And then I'm all in on Adam Cole, so he's a championship. Even though that's not going to happen.
The only way he's going to ever be champ is if it's as a face, because there's no way anybody's going to take him serious as a heel.
No, they're still way too popular. That's back to the whole Undisputed Era. Like I think you're wrong because those are just tag teams. This is a faction, and this is one of the most popular I think acts that WWE has in a long time. Like of course it's NXT, but you got Cole, who's the face. You got Roderick Strong's utility. You got the tag team of Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. So you can interchange it. I don't think it's just a two-man team.
But Are you saying him for the tag or?
Oh no,
For
no,
the,
I'm halfway joking, saying I want him for WWE champion because I'm a huge
oh,
Adam Cole fan. But
well, yeah,
uh,
I can see them doing tag, but I don't see him ever being a WWE champ. He might get a United States or an Intercontinental
so
one
you never
day.
see Adam Cole never as a champion on
No,
WWE.
he's not even as big as Daniel Bryan.
All right, that's a whole another podcast. We're
Yeah,
going to discuss that. Okay,
yeah,
so we're probably going to start wrapping up pretty soon. Okay, so WWE Universal. Let's take Roman out because that's just a foregone answer.
yeah. Well, Roman out. It's going to be Drew is probably the man it's going to go to.
So well,
Because if
after Drew, because we know that, who can you see after Drew?
well, again, it goes back to depending on who's there. If Roman isn't there, then Brock is still going to probably end up being the heel character,
Uh-huh.
with Drew being face.
Okay.
If Roman comes back, then Roman I think comes back face, and Drew's the heel. So
Gotcha.
we'll say Drew's probably the cornerstone of anything that happens.
So you think Drew's going to be the man if it's not early this year, but throughout the year it's going to be Drew, Braun, or Brock. That's for the Universal title, depending if
Yeah,
Roman's not there.
yeah. Because
Okay.
I would think KO would be probably more towards the WWE title.
What if Styles goes to Raw?
If Styles goes to Raw, I think he would be Intercontinental Champion.
So you don't think he can? You don't think so? He can't, even though he's one of the greatest
I
WWE.
think they're done letting him be the big champ for a little bit because
Go-
he draws star power to other titles.
Got you. So okay. So you think next year in 2019 it's going to be a 3-man race: Brock, Braun, Drew, and if Roman's back, Roman.
Yes.
For
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So
Which,
what about
pretty much anybody listening to this would have the same thoughts, probably.
what about WWE champion?
Well, you got Bryan. I think the Miz finally. I don't know if he gets a title reign, but I think he gets in the mix for it eventually at some point.
Okay.
KO if he's there, and really, I'm trying to think of. They might move Shinsuke back into it, or if they finally let Rusev do his thing, maybe this is the year he finally gets it.
Right.
SmackDown is the harder show for me to guess certain things. I'll be honest.
Great, because they're just all so good, and you can see any of them. Like with Raw, you know for certain it's going to be those 3 or 4 guys. Everybody
Well,
else is just
a
playing
lot of
in.
times you know who's going to be in the match, but you just can't ever really tell who they're going to have win the match.
Right. So if you had to say an answer right now for both champions and take Roman out, who's going to be Universal and WWE champion?
Drew Universal, KO WWE.
Okay, I'm going to go Drew for Universal, and I really want the Miz for WWE. He deserves. I mean, that's a whole other podcast, but he really deserves another run with the title. I think that he at WrestleMania 27 that was a different person. I mean, how many years ago was that?
Yeah.
We were totally different people that many years
Yeah.
ago. I mean, he
Yeah.
deserves another one. Alrighty, well, I think that's going to be about it. We're about an hour in. I appreciate everyone listening to our first go around. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Simon Says Let's Wrestle, and follow me at Twitter at Simon Says Let's Wrestle. Thanks for listening.